ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Horizons. I'm your host, Dave Lucas, coming to you from Ohio University Southern Campus right here in Ironton. And we've got with us today a very special guest, a man who's author of a book and a very good friend of mine over the years. But this book will intrigue you. Don't be afraid to ask how to date a beautiful woman. Some of you women will be wondering why you're even watching this show, but we're going to tell you that in just a few moments. We're very glad, Tri-State, that you're watching us today, and we hope that you won't go away as we talk to Bob Lott. Bob, it's good to see you, and thank you for being on the show today. How are you?
Just fine.
We were in college together.
Yes, we were, yeah.
But haven't seen each other in a long, long time.
Long time.
Yep, has been. And you have authored a book.
Yes, I've authored a book.
Don't be afraid to ask how to date a beautiful woman.
Yes.
Interesting title. Interesting concept. Bob, why in the world, whatever possessed you to write a book about how to date a beautiful woman?
Well, I basically needed a how-to book for myself. So I said, I can write a book for myself and it helps me. It's definitely bound to help others.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of a self-therapy, and then all of a sudden you hit upon something that you thought would be helpful to everybody else.
Self-therapy, and I felt, well, it was actually a motivational type of thing, and I said, well, I'm getting results with this. Let's take a little further.
Now, this book, though, is not just a personal view. It's based on some research.
Yes, it has. Yes, I've done research in science of mind, motivational information, power of the subconscious mind, and also the Holy Bible. The book is basically based on biblical principles.
It's a biblical principle which will appeal to a lot of our folk here in the Bible Belt.
It sure will.
If what age group would this book appeal to?
The book will appeal from a younger level and a teenage level all the way up into late adulthood.
So this book would be applicable, or would be all right for a young man, a teenager to buy? And
yeah, the youngest person I believe that bought the book from me was around 13, 14 in a book signing, and the oldest individual that ever bought the book was 89 years of age.
89 years old. 89 years old. Now you're the president and publisher of Doveco Publishing, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, this book has taken off, and we're on Amazon.com. Is that right?
Amazon.com. Yes.
And you're on Barnes & Noble?
Barnes & Noble, B. Dalton Books, Walden Books, Books A Million, as well as a website, datebeautifulwomen.com.
So you got your own website as well?
Yes, have my own website as well.
So if somebody wanted to look this up on the internet, they're out there viewing today, and they say, you know, I kind of like to look at that background. I've, of course, got the Amazon page here that you've given me. How would they go about finding it?
Well, on the Amazon page, they can just go to the search section, hit the arrow on the books, and then type up my name, Bob Lott, hit go, and calls up the web page for the book, information on the book. And of course, as far as the website goes, you just have to hit www.datebeautifulwomen.com, and that will come up.
www.datebeautifulwomen.com.
Yes, that's correct.
Date Beautiful Women. Well, now I've got to ask, Bob. I know that men would like this, and we're going to get into some of the reasons why you wrote the book here in a few moments, but let me just ask you this question. Even now in our studio, we've got young ladies who are running our cameras. Now, should they be offended that you wrote a book on how to date a beautiful woman, or what's the concept there?
Well, they should basically be elated by it, because the book actually exalts women. It puts women in the proper perspective, where it teaches a man how to obtain emotional intimacy with a beautiful woman.
So you're not really looking at the physical aspects as much as emotional, spiritual, I saw.
Mental, emotional, and spiritual, yes, that's correct. In a way of being able to develop a mental and spiritual bond, as well as obtaining emotional intimacy with a beautiful woman. And this is where a man is coming out of their comfort zone and getting to develop the skills and the qualities as to how to be able to emotionally communicate with a beautiful woman.
Speaking of communication, I noticed that in your material you said that a woman, is it on a day-to-day or is it weekly, speaks about 35,000 words?
Yeah, on a daily basis, the average woman speaks around 35,000 words per day, where a man is speaking about 25,000 words per day. So it tells us that women are better communicators, are more interested in communicating than men are.
Isn't that interesting? Until I picked up your book, I hadn't realized that women were. I know some of the best speech students I've had were women.
Yeah, women are very good communicators, and they want communication. You know, we speak about frivolous communication, which is small talk. We get into a factual level, which is getting into the logic stage, and we get into the feeling level, which is getting into the emotional stage, as well as a freedom level, where each person becomes an individual, where you've developed that ultimate respect with each other.
Now, this young lady that's on the cover of the book, I'm going to hold this up and maybe they can get a shot of that. She's not an actress. This isn't
She's not
somebody,
an actress, no.
somebody that's staged necessarily for
No,
this.
it isn't,
This
no.
was, what's her name again?
Her name is Kelly Lightbourne.
Kelly?
Yes,
And she's studying law at Nova University. Is
that's
that right?
correct, in South Florida.
In South Florida. And also, she's a model.
She's a model, yes. The woman was former Miss Virginia, Miss Virginia, Miss West Virginia, also competed for Miss USA in 1999.
You're running in pretty good company there, Bob Lott.
Yes,
You're running
I
in
am.
Pretty good company. So if you're on Amazon.com, it's Bob Lott, L-O-T-T.
L-O-T-T. They hit the search section, call up books, and type in Bob Lott, hit go, and it calls right up.
Can you give me, Bob, a couple of examples of how this book has helped some individuals? You probably have got some case studies.
Oh, yeah. Well, basically, it gives a man that added edge to play ball with a beautiful woman in her league. It gives them the added confidence. It teaches a person how to meet, where to go, how to introduce yourself, to increase your confidence, to increase your self-esteem, to avoid the negatives such as jealousy, such as resentment, such as possessiveness. And also, it teaches a man how to manage money, as well as how to work as a team, setting up short-term, long-term goals, and knowing how to deal with obstacles and how to handle the negatives.
One of the things that I noticed too in your book presentation is that you said that there are a lot of, literally thousands of self-help books or development books out there for women.
Yes.
But not nearly as many for men. There's several about their golf game, and there's several
Right.
about bowling, and
Well, you're dealing with male ego, where a man doesn't want to give the impression that he doesn't know how to date, how to properly date. We're not just talking about dating. We're talking about meeting, dating, marriage, raising a family in a normal, healthy, functional manner. And a woman who wants a relationship book doesn't have a problem with that as far as going to a bookstore. She doesn't have to make it a big secret, where a man likes to be a little secretive about it. He'd rather order a book either through display advertising on the internet or through direct mail, because he wants to keep it a big, big secret.
so most men don't walk into a bookstore looking for a book on how to date a beautiful woman. They're going to be more likely to get it off the internet so that they can kind of quietly look at it and improve themselves in a quiet fashion.
Right, and of course, to our benefit, it's starting to gradually change. Where men are starting to finally break down that barrier and saying, hey, I need help here.
Have you had any men angry with you? Have you had any?
I had a few that resented it, yes. They said, well, you know, it's like edited notes. It's declarative sentences. It reminds me of the Dragnet series. I don't feel this book would help me. I dated a beautiful woman. We went our separate ways. And of course, he didn't lash out at the woman, so he had to lash out at me. I became a scapegoat. No, it doesn't bother me at all.
No.
I just had to laugh at it. And I take it in stride because, you know, it's not an easy book. It takes a lot of discipline and a lot of determination to be able to master what's in this book. It's a small book. It's like a little stick of dynamite. There's no filler. There's no marketing fluff in the book. So it's giving you factual information.
So it's all solid, page by page?
All solid, concrete, word by word. Gives you the nuts and bolts of what it takes to successfully have a meaningful, healthy, functional relationship.
Well, not to steal any thunder from your book, because we certainly wouldn't do that, but let's say there are some men watching right now, and I know there are men that go through divorce, there are men that are single. How do you begin? You say, okay, I want to start a relationship with a very attractive person. What's the starting point? How do I
Well,
begin?
the starting point, basically, most people suffer from fear, rejection. And rejection and fear is a part of the relationship game, and you have to be able to overcome that fear to be able to approach a woman. Plus the fact you need the necessary confidence, what it takes to be able to approach someone. Now, if people are suffering mentally, emotionally, I suggest getting professional help if you're not able to help yourself with your issues in your life. And also, it's something you have to be able to feed your mind on a daily, regular basis, such as positive thinking books, tapes, etc. I'm a big I'm a big avid fan of Zig Ziglar. He's a big motivational man. And I got a lot of information that kind of inspired me to write the book, as well as a man by the name of Dr. Joseph Murphy, who has written The Power of the Subconscious Mind. They're very good sources.
Power of the Subconscious Mind.
And also the fact is you have to rely on providential help. In other words, you believe in a power greater than you. The motto of Ohio, with God all things are possible, inspires me. And that's
Right.
basically what it takes.
Yeah, right now we're in the Supreme Court
I
argument.
heard about that. Unfortunately, I heard about that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
With God, though, all things are possible.
There you go. We just live our motto and hope for the best. Yeah, that's good. Now, let me ask you this question. Who decides who is a beautiful woman? Does the person, and maybe you've been asked that before too, I would guess.
Well, you know, the media has done a lot to define what beauty is, and of course you're going through only physical appearance, but beauty basically is in the eyes of the beholder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I like a woman of substance, I may be attracted to that. To me, in my mind, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
For a person who looks like a model figure, to that person it could be beautiful, but also you're dealing with beauty, brains, the personality to go with it. You must have that chemistry to go with it.
So
and
the book
it's a
is-
trial and error thing.
So the book is not necessarily designed to how to date a beautiful model or how to date a beautiful Hollywood star. Your book is about how to date a beautiful person.
That's correct, yes.
Is that right?
That really pins it down, nails it down to a science.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and so people who would be interested in figuring out how to develop a relationship with someone that they perceive to be or know to be a beautiful person, they could take this book. Could women learn anything from this book?
Women can learn a lot from this book because it actually tells them what kind of man is good for them.
Oh. Are you thinking about writing a sequel to this for the women?
Well,
or what's
there's
your-
something in the back burner that I'm going to be doing for women. Don't be afraid to ask how to marry a wonderful man.
Uh-huh.
And it's very similar to the information that you see in this book
Uh-huh.
for men at this point.
Are you going to have a female co-author or somebody to advise
Well, I
you?
had thought about that. I know people have tried, male authors have tried to do books for women that weren't very successful, but that's basically still on the back burner, though, Dave.
I understand.
And I want to get the men concept down to set up right now first.
We want to perfect this male there. The male
Exactly.
thing. And so some of the resistance you felt from the guys was more about, well, you know, I don't think this applies to me, or is that basically?
Well, they look, you know, most people look at a book, they feel that you have to have 300 or 400 pages to have a good book, and there's a lot of marketing fluff and filler. There is no marketing fluff and filler in this book, and you know, people say, well, it's the size of an index card, half the size of an envelope. I don't feel that it will be helpful because, you know, people don't want to take these challenges. They want what comes easy for them.
Yeah.
And anything easy does not come, you know, it's not rewarding.
Yeah.
You have to work at it. It's a discipline like any other aspect of your life.
So this is basically like a mental discipline text. if
Very
you
much
will.
so, yes.
Okay, very good. Well, Bob, we're going to come back in just a few moments. We're getting ready to take a break here. We're talking to Bob Lott, who is the author of Don't Be Afraid to Ask, How to Date a Beautiful Woman. Bob maintains that this book not only is good for men, but also would be good for women. So we want all of you to stay tuned. We're going to go away to a break, and just as soon as we come back, we'll have more about Bob and his book. Don't go away. You're watching Horizons. We'll be back after you see this. Hello and welcome back to Horizons. I'm your host, Dave Lucas. You're watching Horizons from Ohio University Southern Campus here in Ironton, Ohio. Today's guest is Robert Lott, Bob Lott, who's the author of Don't Be Afraid to Ask, How to Date a Beautiful Woman. And we've been discussing the impact of this book, this mental textbook, if you will, on men and on women. So Bob maintains that it's for both and that both have used this book with great degrees of success. And he's talked to us a little bit about some cases where that has happened. Bob, you mentioned something that I thought was interesting. I know in the background of the text that 60%, I think it is, of the married women are frustrated with the relationship of their spouse.
Yes,
That's kind of a staggering statistic there.
very staggering statistic.
It's kind of a foreboding for those of us who are involved in relationships. You know, you're hoping that your spouse is in the 40%, not in the 60%.
Right.
What do you think causes that intense frustration? That,
Well, basically, you have men who refuse to go out of their comfort zone, where men are basically inclined for physical intimacy over emotional or mental or spiritual intimacy.
so you're maintaining that the comfort zone for men is mostly physical,
Yes,
and that the comfort zone for the woman is more emotional,
yes,
it's more spiritual,
yes,
it's more mental.
yes,
And so what we have to do, and what this book strives to do, is to walk the man through simple steps out of that physical mode and move him toward a mental, emotional, and spiritual mode. Is that
yes, that's correct, Dave.
And this book gives you the steps to do that.
Yes.
You mentioned some levels. Can you go through those levels again for me? You said there's the start out talking to in a small, frivolous level?
Yeah,
What
we're
do you mean
talking
by
about,
that?
you
Small
start out
talk.
a frivolous small talk where you want to introduce yourself.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's a psychological fact. If you give your name, 9 times out of 10 people are going to give their name back. Hello, my name is Bob. What's your name?
Oh, so that's your first level.
First level, you know, and I'm sure your mother has told you before not to speak to strangers, so I'd really like to get to know you for a cup of coffee. And if you don't have the time, I can understand and appreciate that. But here's my business card. Give me a call at your convenience. Basically like a business call.
Okay. And then there's a second step.
Then we get into a factual level where you're getting into more of a logical stage, when you're getting to know each other a little more. You're getting to basically give some information about yourself as to who you are, what you represent, what you're all about, getting to know each other stage.
And then a third step?
And then we get into a filling stage where you're getting into more of an emotional involvement, where there's a caring, feeling, sensitivity, stages of thought, transference of thought in the inner person, conveying that, bringing that out.
Is that the stage where you talk about in the book that the man has to forget about himself, his needs, or even how the woman thinks or what she thinks about him, to disregard that?
Right.
Concentrate on what she needs?
That's exactly right. Don't worry about how she feels about you. Make her feel happy about herself. Make her feel that you care about her as a person. And take you out of it.
You spend a lot of time in the book, I noticed, talking about spontaneity, creativity.
Right.
You think that's important for a woman?
It's very important.
I thought a woman liked security, though, Bob.
Well, they like security, and basically you're trying to build that security together. That kind of reassures that, where you come up with ideas.
Maintained together.
Maintaining it together, working as it's becoming a team player. Competition basically destroys where creativity builds in a relationship.
Say that again. That's a good one.
Competition basically destroys where creativity builds in a relationship.
So it's not. This is not the big leagues of pro baseball where we have a lot of competition between the two people.
No,
we're looking for.
It's actually the opposite of that.
The opposite of that. So you're playing ball, as you said, in her league.
In her league.
Is that demeaning to a man?
A man basically has to swallow his pride and kind of put his ego in check.
It seems to go against the grain of everything we're taught.
It really does. It does go against the grain because of who we are. But male is kind of the dominant reproductive species. Just like if you watch animals as to how they are, you know, where the female of any animal is always very select. The strong survive. And a woman who has beauty, brains, the personality to go with it can be very, very select as to who she wants. Unfortunately, every woman wants a superstar, but there's just not enough of those people to go around.
So your book is teaching us how to become more like a superstar.
An average man, to how to develop himself to fit into that level, yes. To become a superstar, yes.
To become more than what we would consider average, more than the average.
You can be all you can be by reading this book.
How does the book teach you? I noticed you make this statement that this book teaches how to develop a lifetime or lifelong commitment. How does a small little book like this, a little manual, teach me to be really good at lifetime commitments?
Well, it teaches you basically how to be able to change with the times, you know, because there's going to be obstacles, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be difficulties that are down the road. You never know what's down the road, and it's how to be able to cope with it when it comes into it, when it faces you.
I see.
And you have to be able to know how to break down these barriers.
Right, right.
It's never ending, and basically, when you're going from the dating stages to the married stages, it's still dating. If you don't have dating in your relationship is going to die, wither and die, just like fertilizing and watering a plant.
So you maintain that even after marriage, there needs to be a dating process?
There definitely has to be a dating process.
Describe how that would work. A man and his wife, they're married, been married 3 or 4 years. What should the man do?
A man should take her out to dinner, take her to a movie, take her out and about, travel, to do things special for her, to make her feel that she's special. Still adorn her with candies and flowers and special cards on certain occasions. That's going to keep the love relationship alive.
You don't think guys are doing that?
A lot of men take it for granted. I got the woman. She's mine. She's here. Just like the prehistoric
she's going to stay no matter what.
Aspects of the beginning of time. Yeah, she's going to stay no matter what, and it's not happening.
Yeah, it's especially not happening in this country, is it?
It sure isn't.
Is this book to offer any international appeal?
Yes, there's also parts of the country, parts of the world that purchased this book, such as South Africa, Austria, Germany.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Has it been translated into?
It has not been translated as of yet. Down the road, there is possibilities that it will go into other languages.
Go through again the the various outlets that are available? I know you mentioned Walden Books. That's shocking.
Yeah, you can purchase the book, special order of the book. Ingram Book Company is the distributor. You can purchase the book through Barnes & Noble.
Barnes & Noble. Now, they've got don't they have an online order?
They have an online order as well, yes. Also through B. Dalton Booksellers, as well as Walden Books and Books A Million, as well as Amazon, and also on my website at www.datebeautifulwomen.com.
It's amazing to me, Bob, that such a small book could cause such a great stir. That's what's amazing. That's tremendous.
Well, dynamite comes in small packages.
I was going to say, you liken this book to a stick of dynamite.
Yes.
It blows away at the very foundation of what a lot of men call, or you're calling, their comfort zone, right?
Right, it sure does.
Talk to me a little bit more about providential help. I understand that you're a firm believer in God and that this has been a part of, you even said that, did you tell me that the inspiration actually came, or the defining moment came when you were at church to write this text?
Yeah, I was at my lowest Deb and in a relationship, and trying to establish a relationship with God as not having God as the basis of a relationship, finding it was very empty, very desolate. And when you're taught that God or Christ is the head of the church, it really is. And believing in a power greater than you, those who pray together, stay together, really and truly works. You got to have that childlike faith.
Mm-hmm. And that works in the relationship.
It certainly does.
What does that do for the woman? What kind of response?
Well, it gives a mental, emotional. It also helps in the mental, emotional, spiritual bond. It makes the woman realize that I have a man here who's a child of God, that I admire him for his belief and his faith.
Uh-huh.
And we can stand together steadfast because you're developing or maintaining or building a solid foundation with each other.
The text talks about disabilities in men, these debilitating factors that prevent them from asking or even approaching someone they perceive to be a beautiful person. What are some of those disabilities that men face in our culture?
Well, you're getting involved with fear. You're getting involved with fear of rejection. You're getting involved with low self-esteem, feeling that the person is unworthy, or feeling like, for instance, myself, I'm unworthy. She's too good for me. I could never relate to this woman. She doesn't. What do I have to offer her?
What would she see in me?
What would she see in me? I don't have I don't make enough money in what I do for a living, and money is not a real big issue. The key thing is not how much money you make, because if wealth was the answer, then Donald Trump wouldn't have been married and divorced as many times as he's been married and divorced.
That's a good example. Yeah, so it's not just money, is it?
No, it sure isn't. It's knowing how to manage your money, knowing how to work together as a team, having short-term, long-term goals. There's just people who just don't know how to manage their money, which is the number one cause of divorce, finance, and of course the sexual problems.
Yeah, yeah. My goodness. It's really interesting. How can these men then improve their self-esteem? What can a man do? I know, get your book, but what are some of the steps?
I suggest people going to therapy if they need therapy. I suggest people reading positive books, tapes, motivational information.
You mentioned Zig Ziglar.
Zig Ziglar is a very, very good example.
Yeah,
anyone who's involved in science of mind, even Tony Robbins would be a good example. People that are positive and upbeat, that teaches you how to be able to overcome, and not just being mundane throughout your life, but to be able to go over the top.
And you certainly are maintain that this book picks up principles from not only cultural studies that you've done and research that you've done, but also from the Bible.
Yes.
What are some of the aspects of the Bible that you drew from here? Were Old Testament principles, New Testament principles?
Well, I'm basically looking at New Testament principles, because we as Gentiles, have a new disposition of life, and Christ is the head of the church, and of course who's died on the cross for our sins, that we have salvation, and knowing what that's all about.
You have any people Jewish who have made any comments about that? Any comments?
I have not. No, I really haven't.
So they've kind of accepted it.
They've kind of accepted it. Yes.
Yeah, good.
Now I'm going a little stronger here, because we believe that Christ is the head of the church.
Right.
That Christ died on the cross for our sins, that we may have salvation.
Right.
We also believe that we must be baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and for remission of sins.
Right. The average man, you said, wants the beautiful woman, but the beautiful woman does not want the average man. What does that mean?
Unfortunately. In other words, the beautiful woman does not want a man who's just going to go through life and not do anything with his life.
She wants a
performer.
She wants a hero?
She wants a hero. She wants somebody to look up to. In her mind, that man has to be Superman.
Superman. Can we live up to that, Bob?
We can live up to that in regard of, in her mind,
Uh-huh.
being able to satisfy her needs, her mental, emotional, and spiritual needs.
Uh-huh.
It's not the point of, well, I got to offer you a mansion, or I got to offer you a brand new Mercedes. People kind of misconstrue what it is to satisfy a person,
Right.
the female gender.
Right.
And the key thing is to be able to be sensitive enough and to put yourself into high gear to satisfy her mentally, emotionally, as well as spiritually.
Takes a lot of energy to do that.
It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was one of those who suffered from that energy. I just didn't have enough.
Uh-huh.
My energy bucket was very, very low. But the more you read, the more you educate yourself, the more you develop your mind, body, and soul to work out and condition yourself to be able to have that strength, you will gain energy. And you have to keep yourself physically fit. You have to have proper diet, and proper diet, whether all the way around, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, as well as physically. It takes a lot of endurance.
Bob, we're just about run out of time, but let me ask you this final question. If you could pick out any one of the case studies, any one of the stories of the book that has helped somebody, what one would you tell us about today? If there was one you could say, I know this guy who took this book. Give me a personal example of what's happened.
Well, I'd like to mention a professor whose assistant had read the book and after reading the book became engaged.
You know that for a fact, huh?
I know that for a fact.
Yeah, very good, very good. Bob, thank you for coming from South Florida, all the way from Florida, just to be on this program today. It's a real joy to have you, and we're glad you were here. We're also glad you've been watching because we're learning about how to be better people. We're thankful that you're watching Horizons, and we've got this one final admonition to you. Keep your eyes on the horizon.